Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this latest narration of the web series The Burning Ones. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 20. The Warlock and the Wolf. I discovered the answer to the question I was sent here to find. A human, a species my people had no recorded contact with in the past, was responsible for the death of our 4 members in the Seraphim L team. When I began, this outcome was my worst fear. First contact resulting in multiple fatalities, wars having waged for lesser slights. That was before I knew the depths of the situations. Humans do not travel to the stars alone, and their companions are beyond dangerous. Having spent time with Allison and Shadow, and fought alongside both her and other humans, I began to fear a conflict between my people and hers would end in a horrific bloodshed. Then I saw the video footage of my comrades being torn to pieces. After that, I don't actually have a word for how I felt. Mark Tarot and I spoke very little after I viewed the recording. I asked, and he confirmed that a human woman was seen leaving in the final frames of the video. That was it. The next day I found the human commander again. I needed more information before reporting to my superiors. "Tarot," I said, accidentally speaking much too loudly and startling several crewmates in the mess hall. I need to speak with you." Mark Ghost stood behind him, suddenly bristling with energy. I heard a yelp and a skittering sound as Kuzef dove inside the waste receptacle behind me. "Fantastic diplomacy, Gaia. You should make a career out of this." Sorry." I bowed my head, a submissive gesture I hoped that would cover my mistake. "That, came out wrong." Mark smiled and said, "Okay, walk with me, Chief. I need to go check on Lorenzo." I watched as Ghost's light slowly dimmed. "I didn't mean to sound so aggressive." "It's quite all right," Mark said. "I assume you've spoken with your superiors since yesterday?" "Not yet. I need more information." "What would you like to know?" Mark asked. His cybernetic eye rotated at an awkward, unnatural angle to view me as I walked beside him. "Firstly," I moved closer, hoping Ghost wouldn't take my movements as a threat. "What are you?" Mark stepped in front of me, turning to walk backwards. He smiled broadly and said, "I'm a ruggedly handsome Irishman, an officer and a gentleman." Mark's voice was musical, and he made a flourishing gesture with a hand and bowed. "At your service, milady." I grinned. It was impossible not to. "No, really." "Oh, you mean this?" Mark pointed to Ghost and then to himself. "Yes, Featherbrain, I saw you working with him. It's not like the rest of your species." "Right. Is this an official inquiry?" Mark fell back into step beside me, this time placing me on his organic side. "Honestly, I'd prefer it not be, but—" "So off the record then, milady," Mark said. "If you have the discretion." "I'm not recording you," I replied. "In that case, I'll use a bit of my own discretion and answer some of your questions, in the sake of friendly relations between 2 people. Mark was so much better at this diplomacy thing than I was, it felt unfair. "My government classifies me as a warlock." "I don't think I know this word," I admitted. "Honestly, I think that the guys who did all the organizing work for my unit were huge nerds." I didn't know that word either, but Mark's grin implied there was some sort of humor. "They took the term from a game called Dungeons and Dragons." This game, I remembered seeing a dragon in one of Allison's films. It had little hobbits, I think, creatures who resembled the tiny natives of Pertuk. It simulates combat with dragons? "That depends on how good your imagination is," Mark laughed and added. "It's played on a table." "I believe that you've lost me," I conceded. "It's not important," Mark said. "Your roommate seems the type. She can probably explain D&D better than me, if you care. The part that is relevant is my government classifies me as a warlock, a human who has gained magical powers through partnership with an otherworldly force. None of the people who designed the program could see behind the scenes to understand exactly what is happening, so they used fantasy to bridge the gap." "What about the woman in the video? Is she a warlock?" "That's completely different," Mark said adamantly, as we arrived at the sickbay. "That was a draconid. I'm in control." "Draconids are not in control of their actions," I asked. "Not like me. Ghost and I work together. He channels his powers through me according to my intent. There are things I couldn't make Ghost do if I tried, and he would never take control of my body without permission. Draconids are, something else." Mark pointed at the view screen, where Lorenzo was watching a video of Fulton, who was inhaling some sort of gas in his laboratory, which made his face rapidly change colors. The boy's corrupted guardian sat coiled tightly around Lorenzo's feet. "This child is being hollowed out bit by whatever this creature is, and one day there won't be much human left at all." "Do you know anything about it?" I said. "The clerics. That is the other kind of people like me. They believe their guardian and power comes from a divine source," Mark explained. "They believe that some people have angels, and others, like Lorenzo, have demons. The demons corrupt. They seek power and destruction. I find this last part, at least, to be valid." "What about the one who took out the Seraphim L team?" "That," Mark waited, and several of the medical staff passed us, "was what we believe was a full-fledged adult draconid. My guys are guessing. We've never seen one before." "What do you mean by adult?" Mark sighed and pointed to Lorenzo. "He was so skinny when you found him. The children stopped connecting with other humans. They stopped talking and eating. They play with their little monsters, and they utilize their newfound abilities to do, anything their immature, impulsive child minds concoct. They set fires for fun, for revenge, for amusement. They kill. They are children with magical powers." "What happens?" "The more they use their power, the more the little monster grows, the more control it takes. Later on, I don't know." Mark sighed heavily. I could tell that his conscience weighed on him. I knew the look on his face. It was the same on my own, on dark nights when I remembered the things I'd done for duty. "I refuse to believe that these children are evil in some way. Later on, I think it's that thing doing all the piloting. Some of these kids were traumatized and abused. It makes sense when they flash out in the targeted logical fashion, but..." "But what?" "But not when they destroy entire city blocks, bring down buildings, burn starships. It's wanton destruction. They don't typically survive." "But, I said, sometimes..." "If they survive the first big incident, the second is worse, and so on. We've never seen an adult, not until the video is found. Off the record," Mark said. The organic side of his face was slightly pale. "My government is, terrified. Before warlocks and clerics, we had to carpet bomb a teenage dragonid for hours, days even, to put it down. Entire towns were leveled. Hundreds, sometimes thousands were killed." "You can stop this adult draconid, though. There has to be a way." "I hope we can," Mark sighed. "But one of my friends died in an encounter with a 12-year-old. A warlock survived the encounter, and eventually..." "They had to kill him," I said softly. "She claims the cleric used their body to protect her at the end. I gave her enough time to," Mark halted, "finish the job." "What about Lorenzo?" I said. "What happens to him?" "A team of clerics is coming for him. They will take him somewhere safe, and then attempt to separate him from the monster. There's no guarantee, but they are becoming more successful." "And the woman?" I asked. "Something must be done." "Finding her is our top priority. Reinforcements are coming. I fear that we'll need every soldier we can get. Will you or your government help?" "Before I commit, I need you to answer a hard question." I spoke slowly, deliberately. "And I need you to tell me the entire truth." "What is it?" Mark asked. He sounded earnest. Maybe he was just a good diplomat. "Is there any chance this draconid is connected to one of your governments?" "Absolutely not," Mark said, quickly and without reservation. "It's against international law to employ a draconid as a weapon of war. There are human governments and factions that are horribly violent, I admit. No one would be insane enough to try. Even warlock and cleric use is regulated by international commission." Mark looked me square in the eyes and said, "Terra does not want to war with Seraph. We are willing to do anything to avoid this. The woman in the video has been identified biometrics as Nora Karine. She has violated a list of laws and treaties as long as my arm and has arrest warrants in several systems for violent crimes. Karine has been off radar for months. We assume that the missing human vessels in the sector are all her handiwork. The Terran government has declared Norica Ryan kaput lupinum. Her life is forfeit. End of chapter. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Sevaren Serberous, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Casper Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.